What I thought you could say a couple of words about to the group, if you would, in line with where we're going with all this, is since we're going to end up talking a little bit about intentional communities when we get into solutions and things like that. For now, is there, having seen so many examples of failures of intentional communities that are ultimately the structure that we'd like to be moving to, how can people start the pre-work toward connecting to the people that maybe will come together in those groups in the future? To lessen the chance of failure, what are the first steps that people would take toward that structure?
Well, the first step is having a general picture of where you're going to go with your friendships and your network, and I prefer what I call informal networks rather than formal networks.
Yeah.
For example, if you join a malicious group, you're guaranteed to get on a government list because virtually 100% of all militia groups are infiltrated by the government.
Right.
And they're taking names and they're tracking everything that you do, and they will take you down as a conspiratorial group someday. So you got to be smart enough to say, all right, we're not going to form a formal organization. Therefore, you can't be tracked. Now, I'll tell you, when you're talking about joining forces with living with like-minded people, you don't want to be all in the same neighborhood for two reasons. One, if you're going to attract people to community, you're going to have to advertise.
Right.
This community has this much preparation. You're going to have to tell people what you have. You're going to have to tell people what your philosophy is, and that's going to make you enemies. Mm-hmm. Because the bad people will see your advertising and your promotion. Yeah. There was a community, for example, in Idaho being formed called the Citadel. You don't want to name something the Citadel that has the appearance of a fortress or a compound. They'll label you as those things.
Yeah. Well, your house turns into a compound as soon as they target you, right?
Well, no, a compound really is where you have multiple families living under one fenced and protected area. That's what a compound is.
Kind of like a commune in a way, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
But you see, when I have questions as a strategic relocation expert, people all the time saying, where can I go find a community of like-minded people where I can just move into that community?
Right, right.
And I'm trying to tell people, don't go there. Because, first of all, they all self-destruct. There's not one of those communities still existing because of their just difference of opinions. Yeah. Even religious communities can't stay together because they don't agree on religious points. And one leader surfaces who's stronger and he'll offend somebody. And one person's got more money than the other, so they want to take advantage of the person with money. So the solution to all this is, and the answer to your question for positives, you move into a safe area that's going to be safe long-term. It's not a big city. It can be, within an hour's drive of a big city or a commerce area so that you can get access, because there's nothing worse than trying to build a retreat that's 2 hours away from the nearest Home Depot. You're going to spend a lot of time on the road trying to get supplies.
Okay.
So you want to be close enough to things, but about an hour's away generally, so that you're in a rural community. And then what you do is you start to network with people by going to conservative meetings, going to Republican meetings. Even if you don't like mainstream Republican things, you're going to find somebody speak up who's obviously a conservative and say, okay, get to know that guy. Go to good conservative churches, and there are going to be a lot of mainstreamers in all these organizations.
And this is how you avoid the trap of what you were talking about with advertising, right? You just personally network.
You're building your own personal network of people you trust, that you like personally, and you're making the judgment yourself. You're not making the judgment based upon some community who's already built upon some other criteria. You make your own personal network, and it doesn't take a whole community to survive with. It just takes 4 or 5 families who you can trust that have various different, you don't have to have a doctor, you can all learn basics of good natural medicine and first aid and other things. You don't have to have a plumber, you can learn plumbing. You see, you want trustworthy people who are willing to learn skills and trades to become more self-sufficient and willing to prepare. And that's where safety is. You don't have formal meetings. You don't get together and say, we're part of this group, because that gets noised about.
When you say you don't have to live in one community, you do mean in one area, though.
In one area. where you know where each other lives. But if you live in one community, then you get targeted in that community, and suddenly you're surrounded by SWAT teams, and you're declared a compound, and they're going to take you down.
Okay.
For some reason. So you don't want to go to a planned community where you all live together. Keep separate, have your own preparations, just know who you can trust, build those relationships, and that's the best decentralized approach.
Do you have a picture of how many miles of diameter of the area you're talking about?
No.
Just anything where you can get between
If I know somebody I can trust and he's 20 miles away, I'll deal with that.
Okay.
But you see, the worst thing is trying to get into one area and one thing fits all and say, you need to move here, but I'm too far away from my job, but I'm this, by that. And see, you can never make that work.
Right.
You're too restrictive by having everybody live close together. Let people pick the best situation. Different financial situations can afford different levels of preparedness, but know who you can trust. And you have to say, well, he's 20 miles away, he's 10 miles away, he's 2 miles away. And who do I need at this particular time? I picked the 5 mile away guy.
Right.
There's no set standard of safety. But trust is the ultimate thing you're looking for.
Right. You talk a lot about the EMP being involved in, shutting things down, but that doesn't mean new, better, more local technologies can't come in to afford some kind of communication, right?
That's right. Because if you're in a small network within 5 miles, for example, you can always communicate with ham radios, which if you keep in a secure, EMF-proof container, are still going to survive after the EMP strike.
Okay, so that's actually a good skill to start looking at for some people in the present time.
It is.
Okay. Exciting, Joel. We look forward to the next episode, and thanks for being willing to do all this work with us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Richard. We'll see you next week.
All right, see you then.